Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we're going to do a review of some of the racing on Saturday. I tried to watch as much as I could. I did have to go out for a birthday meal in the evening as it was my birthday on the Sunday. So I missed a couple of races. I will go through and watch those as well to make sure I didn't miss anything of importance. But those races in the afternoon up until about 6 o'clock, I wanted to talk about some of the rides, the runs, and who was interesting going forward. So we'll start off with the 7 furlong maiden at the Curragh, where Henry Longfellow was a very impressive winner on debut at 5-4. Now, Henry Longfellow, the sire is Dubawi and the dam is Minding. So, they would have been disappointed if he wasn't good, if he wasn't very good. And to be fair, I thought he won that comfortably. He was always going well. Ryan was waiting as long as he possibly could before trying to make an effort. And when he did ask for an effort, Henry Longfellow quickened away nicely. It's the first horse to win that race on debut for a little while, actually. Hans Andersen won it last year, had already had a run, had finished second. John the Baptist hadn't had a run, but for Aidan O'Brien I was looking specifically. Wembley was beaten, having had a run. Iberia was the last one that hadn't had a run for Aidan O'Brien. He won it in 2019. Now, Iberia did end up contesting an Irish Derby. Granted, went off 25-1 that day and finished 12 for 14. But they still thought that he was good enough for an Irish Derby. And he wasn't anywhere near as well bred as Henry Longfellow is. And I don't think the performance... I mean, these two R figures here, R2 and R1 from Mythology, they're good figures. And if he's run to a similar level and Henry Longfellow has still beaten him comfortably, like I think he did, that was a really good performance on debut. It was over 7, demonstrating that they're going to be getting a mile and 2, a mile and 4 probably in time. And yeah, I was very, very taken by that run, and he's definitely one that will be contesting group races, I'm sure. Maybe not next time. They might go an easy race next time, but then definitely third run. I can definitely see Henry Longfellow in a top class group race, Group 1, Group 2 sort of thing. That was a very, very good performance from Henry Longfellow. Moving on to the 2 o'clock. This was probably Aidan O'Brien's only disappointing run, I think. And when I say disappointing run, they didn't win it. They finished second with Pearls and Rubies. And you look at it and you think, well, Pearls and Rubies has now been beaten the last twice. She's not that good. She got beat by Snellen at Ascot. Snellen made it 2 from 2. And she got beat by Cairo here. Cairo makes it 2 from 2. And if you actually watch the race, so Pearls and Rubies had been dropped from 7 to 6. They started at 5, they won at 5, they went up to 7, and they dropped back to 6. Watching that race, I know why they went up to 7. Pearls and Rubies definitely wanted 7. And I think would have gone very, even closer to winning had it been over 7. Just took too long to get going, really, Pearls and Rubies. If you like her, I still am a big fan of hers. Don't give up on her at all. Cairo and Snellen are probably decent horses as well, the two that have beaten her. But yeah, she was our only disappointing in the 4 shorties that we suggested. She was the only one that actually got beaten. She finished second, which was very frustrating for us. Moving on to the 2:25 at Newbury, the 2 mile handicap. Sweet William demonstrated that he was very well handicapped. So I'm never a fan of what commentators and analysts and pundits say after races. They go, oh, that horse is so well in here. This can win another couple of handicaps. How do you know? How do you know what the handicap is going to do? The handicapper could go, yeah, we agree that horse was well in, up £20. Would you still like it if it went up £20? Probably not as much as you were saying. Suggesting a horse is well handicapped after a race is pointless in a way, because you don't know what the handicaps suggesting winners is pointless, even the horses that finish a close second or third sort of thing, because you don't know what the handicap is going to do. There were 2 in this race that were beaten well enough that you can say are well handicapped or can go elsewhere. And the first one would be Nathaniel Green. Didn't pick up when asked for an effort, and that was a bit disappointing for Nathaniel Green for sure. There's an obvious race for him though. You got a Haydock for this Old Borough Cup. It's over 1.6 miles, which is just short of what they ran over on Saturday. But why would you go there? Let's have a look at Nathaniel Green's form at Haydock. Here's a 1.6 mile run at Haydock. And he beat Giovaletto, which is obviously top class form. That's surely where we're going to see Nathaniel Green next. In the Old Borough Cup, September 9th. Yeah, what's that? 6 weeks? Yeah, I think that'd be fine. That's where I hope to see Nathaniel Green next. The horse that I was watching with interest going for a future race, an upcoming future race, was Yukon Glen. I don't think Yukon Glen wants 2 miles. And I thought he ran on quite nicely. Never involved in the race. Never really mentioned either. And I don't think they were running here to do anything. What they were doing, though, in my opinion, is trying to get another couple of pounds for this run here. This Coral Summer Handicap. He ran in this race last year, and you can see he was third behind Baj d'Or, who had been in good form, 2-2-1-1 for his last 4 runs, and Trawlerman. Now, Trawlerman obviously went on to win the Ebor afterwards. Yukon Glen ran here off 98. Ran here off 98, and you know, if the handicapper drops him £2, he'd be running off a £6 lower mark than when third in the race last year behind Baj d'Or and Trawlerman. Now, one thing you've always got to be wary of is horses that have lost their form and have just been dropped in the handicap because they're out of form. Well, Yukon Glen actually ran a good race just 2 runs ago at Ayr, when fourth behind Kievar. Had also ran well at Musselburgh in the Summer Whirlpool Queen's Cup. So, you know, he's not out of form. He's fine. He just needs that perfect trip for him, which is about 1.5 miles, 1.6 miles. Goodwood clearly runs well there. And as I said, he is down. He could be down as low as 96, which would get him, you know, it gets him in the handicap quite comfortably. He's not going to miss out or anything, but he would be quite nicely handicapped based on his run last year. So he's definitely one you need to be adding to your NAGMI if you don't already have him. So let's actually go through and I'll show you how you add these horses to your NAGMI. So Henry Longfellow, you've got this pencil mark here. You can click it and you can add your notes. Impressive on debut and should be group race bound soon. And then underneath it says number of races to alter delete after. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or never. What that means is how many runs are you going to give them before they get deleted from your NAGMI. Your NAGMI is obviously you get an email saying that this horse is running. Don't forget that this horse is running, so that you don't miss when they run. Now I'm going to actually put him in as never because I think he's one for the future. So we will do that. If you want to then change that, you can. You can come into your tools. You go to NAGMI here, and it will be the one at the very top. Here it is, Henry Longfellow. You can change anything you like, including the notes, or you can delete it, or you can make the changes and click save. So that was Henry Longfellow. Let's quickly add Pearls and Rubies. Beaten by 2 good sorts. Save that one. Next one. Nathaniel Green. Where did I say for that one? The Old Borough Cup. 2 runs because he might have a run in between. Yukon Glen. Summer Handicap. Handicap at Goodwood. That should be his next run, as it's only 14 days. Whoops. Let me just rechange that. 1 run. Update. Okay, next horse I want to talk about, or next race I want to talk about, it's a 2:35 at the Curragh. Disappointing that John Quinn didn't send over Mr. Wagyu. Richard Fahey sent one over, and Richard Fahey won it with Strike Red. Now, an interesting observation I made on this race, if you go back to about 3 furlongs out, no, not even that, 2 furlongs out, look where Strike Red, Aussie Girl, and No More Porter are. They're all on the inside. Aussie Girl's at the front, Strike Red's in the second in behind, and No More Porter is third on that line down the inside rail. And you definitely wanted to be towards this rail if you wanted to go very, very close here. And I think with that in mind, it kind of, you can upgrade the performance of Laugh a Minute, who was down the middle more than the rest of them. And yet he's run a really good race here for third. Now, this was a good run for him as well, especially considering he ran in this race last year and he was only 15th of 17 off a similar mark. After running there, he actually went to Galway. You know, not that long, what was it, in between 15 days, he went to Galway and he ran a really good race for third at a massive price. And I wonder whether that's where he'll go again. Maybe he'll go up in trip, back for this Ahonora handicap. Good prize money. He finished third in it last year off a similar mark. I think that's where we'll see him next. So let's add him. Let's actually add him from the right race, which is this one. Third at Galway. Let's add something first. Ran well at Curragh on the wrong part of the track. Third at Galway, subsequent last year, could go well. It's just so that we don't miss him. He may not be a selection. Let's just go 2 because I think it's going to be relatively soon. He may not be a selection, but it just reminds us if we do forget. Because obviously there's a lot of racing. You can't always remember every single horse. Moving on to the 250 at Cartmel, the horse I want to talk about here. I'm sorry, but this was a terrible ride. I know it's a female jockey's handicap hurdle. I thought she's given it a shocker. Miss Megan Bevan has given this horse, Uggy, a shocker. Far too far back. Milton Harris actually won a subsequent race under a much better ride from another jockey. This Uggy was like second last with 3/4 of a circuit to go at Cartmel, which isn't far. He's ran on and he's got as close as he could to finish second. I mean, if the handicapper leaves him alone, he can certainly win off this current mark. What did he run off? He ran off a mark of 104. Yeah, a similar mark, and he will. I think he would win. To be honest, he won off 96 with Bradley Harris riding. He would have won off 104 if Bradley had been riding, to be honest. Yeah, so definitely don't... if you had a bet on Uggy, if you like these types of races, add him to your Nagme. I'm going to add him to my Nagme. Poor ride. Given far too much to do. Can win off 104 to 108-ish. And let's add that as a Nagme. Yeah, terrible ride in my opinion. Luttrell Ladd was... I think Luttrell Ladd was second at the time. Uggy was back in, 11th with 3/4 of a circuit to go. Luttrell Ladd went forward, hit the front with probably, 6 furlongs to go. Uggy is still absolutely miles back. You know, it was just a really poor ride in my opinion. Moving on to the 3 o'clock. I was quite pleased to see Comanche Falls win here, and I was actually quite pleased to see Rohan finish last. I hate trainers that come out and say things like, the trainer of Rohan came out and said, "Oh, last time out, last week, we were just running him to make sure he finished his race off." Didn't say that before the race, though, did you? I didn't back Rohan last week. I think it was at Ascot. I didn't back him, but anyone that did, that then hears that. Why didn't you tell everybody that you weren't really there to actually make an effort? You were just there to finish the race off. And as it happens, he brought him out a week later and he still ran a moderate race back in 10th of 10. Good result for one of our Nagmes in terms of Comanche Falls. Comanche Falls won this race at Newbury over 6 furlongs, just squeezing through between Diligent Harry and Cold Case late on. This time last year, he was winning the Stewards' Cup. Or in a few days' time, he was winning the Stewards' Cup, Comanche Falls, beating Tabdeed with Regional back in third. Now, interestingly, Regional has obviously gone on to bigger and better things. He's running listed and group races. Comanche Falls is doing the same. Tabdeed is not. Tab Deed, I'm just going to quickly check what he is on my other screen. Where was that run? Not Goodwood, I want to see this one. It was at Newbury. I'm just trying to find the numbers for us. Comanche Falls was winning at Goodwood. Beat Tab Deed, who only went off 12-1 that day. Tab Deed was rated 100 that day. Tab Deed is now rated, let me just load it up. BHA ratings. Just going to pause the video whilst I find it. Tab Deed is now rated 96. So he's actually £4 lower than when splitting two horses that have gone on to bigger and better things. So he's definitely interesting if he returns again this year. I know he disappointed at Ascot, he's disappointed at Newmarket, but the one thing we do know about him, I mean, if you have a look at some of his other Ascot form, he was 21st of 26 in the Wokingham, rubbish. He was 10th of 20 in the Betfred Heritage Handicap, rubbish. He then went to Goodwood and finished second, and he only went off 12-1 that day. There's obviously something about him that they like, and he's obviously been much higher rated. You know, he's been as high as 112 before. He's still getting lower in the handicap. The last few runs haven't been with his usual jockeys, Kieran Schumacher, Taylor Fisher. Holly rode in a listed race. Before that run in the Skybet Constantine Handicap. And before that, it was the Goodwood Stewards Cup. I think we might see Tab Deed back here off a £4 lower mark. And he's quite an interesting price at 25s. Double the price, £4 lower than when splitting two very good horses. It'd be interesting. With also that in mind about Comanche Falls winning. So Comanche Falls, after winning last year in the Stewards Cup, ran in two races here. This Skybet Constantine Handicap when he was beaten by Summergand. And he ran in the Air Gold Cup when he was beaten by Summergand. Well, we highlighted Summergand being nicely down to a mark of 97 on July 18th. What's the target? The Great St Wilfrid, the Constantine Handicap, or the Air Gold Cup? He could go, as I said, I'll most likely be backing him in all three of those if he runs. So, yeah, he's definitely interesting. So let's just make some notes on those. We are interested in Tab Deed, who split Comanche Falls and regional in Stewards Cup. Create Nagme. That'll probably be, I might have to delete that myself next time. And I'm also interested in, we should already have Summergand in there, he's not for some reason. Now well handicapped. Form still looks strong. And yeah, never, because I don't know how many runs he's going to have before I stop backing him. Moving on to the 310 at the Curragh. This was just to say another great bit of placement. Trainer going over to Ireland. Art Power. They went forward. Now this is where sometimes I think jockeys ride their horse rather than riding the race. And what I mean by that is Art Power had been winning group races at the Curragh over 6. He went forward alongside White Lavender, and the others just let him go forward. Like, you're now not going to run him down. If you're already behind a horse who stays further, you're unlikely to run him down. Something should have been really trying to get alongside him, or even go past him, or being right on his shoulder and trying to use their speed. If they're meant to be 5 furlong horses and Art Power was a 6, how come Art Power was able to get away and get 2 lengths clear of them from an early stage? You know, we didn't mind because we'd backed Art Power, so we were delighted with how the race unfolded. But with the jockeys have got to, they've got to ride their horse, but they've also got to ride their race. And I think sometimes they don't ride the race based on who they've got to try and beat and who the, you know, if we let that horse go forward, we're unlikely to peg it back. If we go too hard, that horse at the back's going to be beautifully towed through the race. But they don't think about that. I'm sure jockeys don't. And they just go, I've been told this horse is a hold-up horse. I'm going to hold it up. Mini rant over. Moving on to the 315. If you want to see a ride, this is it. Go back and watch Born Famous under Harry Cobden. No, it could just be that he's unbelievably well handicapped. He must be. He must be unbelievably well handicapped. I would then start to ask what on earth was the previous trainer doing with him. He got him beat in a 2 mile 5 handicap over at Thurles, beaten 45 lengths off a mark of 83. How on earth is he winning a handicap cosily of 110 against horses much higher rated? I mean, that previous trainer should almost give up as a trainer. He's never going to be a successful trainer, is he? But yeah, go back and watch this race. Born Famous was 5, 6, 7 lengths behind for most of the race. But Harry didn't panic, and he slowly allowed the horse to close back up. And, even turning in, I think he was out the back of the group. He was just on the back. Those that were beaten were starting to struggle. But he was on the back of the group, and he came through really impressively to actually win it cosily in the end. He jumped the last alongside. Harry had to ride a little bit, and then he went past Cortland, only by like a nose, and then Harry stopped riding, and he could have done the whole Jamie Spencer Sariska wave, to be honest. He was that comfortable. Absolutely backed off the boards, that one. Went off 3-1 favourite, having been as big as 10s during the day. Clearly ahead of its mark. Was ahead of its mark. What does it go up for that, though? Having won by 3/4 of a length, it might not go up as much as it needs to. But if it went up £15, for example, could it win off £15 more? Potentially. But you'd have to see what else is in the race. You can't just say a horse is really well handicapped, clearly ahead of its mark. It was ahead of its mark. It might not be now. Moving on to the 3:35. Another good result for one of our shorties, Relief Rally. And to be honest, if he'd been over the far side, he might have won by 4 furlongs in a 5 furlong race. He was she was clearly the best, wasn't she? She was down her near side, all on her own for most of the race. She still picked up really strongly, ran away from the others, won by 3 lengths, was absolutely motoring on that good soft ground, and now makes it 3 wins and a close second at Royal Ascot. She's clearly talented, and she'll be back up to Group 1 or Group 2 company next time. But it was a great bit of placing because they won £122,000, or 123 pretty much. £1,000, so I'm sure they were delighted with that. In behind, nothing else caught my eye really. Moving on to the 3:45 at the Curragh. So Born Famous was given a cracker of a ride by Harry Cobden. If you want to see another that you would if you'd look at this result and go, oh, she's just got home, sorry, you wouldn't initially think that this is an absolute blinding ride from Ryan Moore, but it was. I really liked her. I thought, she was one of our 4. As I said, we had the 4 shorties, Relief Rally, Art Power, Save the Last Dance, all winners. Pearls and Rubies was the only one who let us down there with a second. Save the Last Dance, I really liked her on the ground. With about half a mile to go, though, she came off the bridle and horses went past. She didn't look like she was even going to be able to run down Library. Library and Lumiere Rock were clear. Blue Stocking travelled alongside Save the Last Dance, went past her, looked like Save the Last Dance was going to finish 4th. Watch the last half a furlong. Save the Last Dance gets going. When she started to get going, I started to get excited again and thought, yeah, it's coming. She picked up so strongly. It looks like 1.5 miles on soft ground is the least she needs. She's a Gold Cup horse of the future, isn't she? She's got to be over that 2.5 mile trip in the future. And yeah, I mean, that was so impressive. With obviously Aidan O'Brien not winning the Gold Cup this year, maybe this is who he sends to it next year with Save the Last Dance. She clearly wants further. She doesn't need to be added to our Nagme because we will know what she needs. And yeah, I was delighted that she got up. I'd been a big fan of hers. I didn't want to knock her for a run against Soul Sister in the Oaks. I said that she's just been beaten by a speedier type. She almost found 1.5 miles. She's probably run an absolute blinder to finish second at Epsom in hindsight on the ground because she struggled over 1.5 miles on soft. Not struggled, but finding this trip right on the sharp side. So yeah, Save the Last Dance. She'll be in future races. There is the could they go for the 2 mile race at Ascot potentially? We'll see. But yeah, I'm still a big fan of hers. Moving on to the 420. We almost had a similar ride here from Ryan on Emily Dickinson, who again showed how much she loves that soft ground. She's very ground dependent. Ross Carberry travelled really, really well, but didn't get home. Probably the trip isn't right for her and the soft ground. And I think it was exaggerated, the distance at the end, because one didn't like the ground and didn't want that far, whilst the other did like the ground and did want that far and further. So they were kind of going away and getting further and further apart every 10 yards. It was like 20 yards of difference in terms of the finishing positions because one liked it, one didn't. Emily Dickinson will definitely be back for the Champion Stakes. This is the Champion Stakes or the long distance stayers race at Ascot on Champions Day. 2 mile. If she gets a bit of cut in the ground, she would definitely run a big race. I mean, she ran fine in the Ascot Gold Cup. She was 4th. Emily Dickinson could certainly be one for the... Let's put that in. Ascot 2 mile. Wants soft ground. Create Nagme. So she is in there to remind us. A few more to go. The Ripon Bell Ringer. Obviously, I was still frustrated that All Right Sunshine wasn't entered. The horse that I think a lot of people felt was going to win this was Chillingham, and Chillingham went off 5 to 6 accordingly. I think the jockeys got it wrong. With about 2 furlongs to go, everything is off the bridle and being pushed along, apart from Chillingham. And I think Callum wanted to wait as long as possible before actually making his effort. But what that allowed is it allowed those other horses that were then not picking up to start to get rolling. And they got rolling and they were into like full stride before Callum Rodriguez really went for it on Chillingham. When he did, Mr. Curiosity was just getting up, was going quicker and managed to get past. Whereas I think if they'd gone over another half a furlong, Chillingham would have actually battled back to go back in front again. Chillingham is definitely he was definitely unlucky. The handicap is going to put him up though. I think he's going to put him up probably to 100. I think he could win off 100. Just needs it wasn't a bad ride. They just tried, and it didn't quite work the way he was ridden, which was disappointing. Just a few more to go. I know this is a really long video, but I do want to highlight all those horses that are interesting. Let's just quickly go and add a note to Chillingham. Jockey left it too late to get going. Up £3? Question mark. 4:45 at Newbury. Horse that caught my eye here was Carrot, who for a William Haggas horse, for these owners, Tom Marquand on board, to go off 12 to 1 and 18.89 on the exchanges probably demonstrates one of two things. She's either not very good or she was not ready at all. And I'm hoping it's the latter. And if that's the case, she's actually ran quite nicely at the end. She's run on probably strongest of all, in my opinion. In a decent race, there's some good R figures here. Maman Jamoon, setting the standard. Granted, she didn't win. Sweet Memories won, who was very well supported, so they probably liked Sweet Memories a lot. I think it was a decent race from Carrot, and she can definitely find a similar Fillies Novice Stakes or a Fillies Maiden, and that's kind of where I'm looking for with her. Fillies Maiden Novice Stakes, and we'll give her the one chance because that's all I want to see initially. Is she good enough to win a race like that next time? Moving on to the 5 o'clock at Market Raisin. This one is all about the handicap mark that the horse gets. If the horse doesn't get very much, a few pounds, I would be pretty confident that he could win again. I'm saying here is a he. Didn't get the clearest of runs at all. Would have been a very unlucky loser if he didn't if he didn't win the race and get up late on, because turning in, he was travelling the best, kept running into trouble, eventually switched wide, picked up really nicely and won the race under, who rode it? Bradley Harris. This was another winner for Milton. I think it wasn't Bradley's fault. He just kept running into trouble. Keep an eye out for Nadim, depending on its handicap rise. So ran here off a mark of 89. Anything under £4, I think that's lenient. So 1 off 89 could win off anything under, I don't know, 94, we'll say. And we'll put that as a 1-run thing. Couple more to go. Promise we're nearly there. Let's not talk about this one. It's a waste of time, actually. Let's talk about this one at Newbury, 5:20. Maggie's Way ran a good race. I highlighted her before, that she'd stayed on the same handicap mark after being beaten in a listed race. And to be honest, I think she was just in the wrong place here. She needed to be over in the middle with Orchid Bloom, with Don't Tell Claire, and with Anna Gold, not with Tango Tonight and Conservationist, who didn't pick up at all. Maggie's Way actually ran on quite strongly towards the finish. If they leave her alone again on that same 84 mark, I do think they can find a race for her. It's not going to be an amazing race, but it's definitely going to be a race that they could find. There's a race that they could find with Maggie's Way. Let's add her back to our NAGMI. Let's put it for 1 run. 84 mark can win off. And the final race I just want to very quickly mention, Stone of Destiny, finished last on soft ground. Doesn't want soft ground. Don't know why they keep running him on that. He's going to drop again in the handicap. As soon as they're back on good ground, yeah, if they run him over 5, I'd be quite confident of a big run. Sorry for such a long video. I hope there's some interesting things there for you to take out, though. I think there's definitely some future winners from this video.